Hello and welcome to EdYou Pulse, your weekly roundup of events, developments, and conversations in the education sector. I'm Caroline Samuel, and on this special Mashramani edition of EdYou Pulse, we reflect on Linden, the birthplace of the celebration. We give you more scenes from the recent Children's Costume Parade, and in the spirit of celebrating culture, heritage, and national pride, we discuss the revitalization of Indigenous languages in observance of International Mother Language Day. All that and more on this week's edition of EdYou Pulse. Stay with us. Linden is a vestibule of Guyana's history, having been named after Guyana's first executive president, being the hub of bauxite mining, producing some of Guyana's finest talents, and hosting the country's first republic celebrations in 1970. Linden's contribution to Guyana's history and culture is undeniable. The year 1970 was a pivotal one for the mining town. On February 23, 1970, the JCs, a humanitarian organization in Mackenzie, hosted the first ever Mashramani procession to celebrate our nation's attainment of Republican status. In their endeavor to create an event that is indigenous to Guyana and captures the essence of Guyanese culture, the JCs consulted with Alan Feetkow, an Amerindian man who worked in the geology department of the Demerara Bauxite Company, DEMBA, for a suitable name. Feetkow described festive traditional Amerindian gatherings after seasons of hard work called Mashiri Mehi, which in Arawak sounds like Mashramani. The concept of celebration after hard work resonated deeply with the group, and so the name Mashramani was given to the parade. Now, as a testament to Lindeners' steadfastness, the parade was held in Linden for 2 years before it was brought to Georgetown for the first time in 1972. Mashramani has been a calendar staple in the capital city ever since. Furthermore, the group that started it all, the JCs, are still active today, now known as Junior Chamber International, JCI Guyana. By the 1970s, the booming bauxite industry had drawn thousands of Guyanese from all over the country to the settlements of Mackenzie, Wismar, and Christiansburg. And on April 29, 1970, the settlements were combined and elevated to a town. The town was named Linden after Guyana's first executive president, Lynden Forbes Sampson Burnham. Now, owing to its rich history, Linden has many important landmarks that make the town an excellent destination for sightseeing. Watuka Guest House is one of the first-class guest house accommodations in Guyana. This early 20th century colonial-style 3-story building features wide overhangs, enclosed corridors on most facades, extended galleries, dormers, and jalousie windows on the first and second floors. The front facade of the edifice faces the Demerara River, whilst access can be gained by land from Casuarina Drive, Watuka, Mackenzie. Watuka Guest House, which was named after the nearby Watuka Creek, once housed the managers of the Demerara Bauxite Company, DEMBA. St. Matthew's Church. St. Matthew's Church, located on Burnham Drive, Christiansburg, is the oldest church in Linden. This Presbyterian church was opened on November 25, 1898. St. Matthew's Church is a single-story, low-suspended colonial-style building which faces the Demerara River. The building features high-pitched roofs, a bell tower, pointed arched windows with tracery, and rose windows. During the bauxite era, trains were used to transport bauxite ore throughout the mines via the railway. The trains were eventually discontinued, and large trucks were used instead. Remnants of the train station and railways and trains are still standing today, primarily in Watuka, Mackenzie Ward. The Christiansburg water wheel is tied to the industrialization of Linden. After settling in Christiansburg, Scottish engineer John Dalgleish Patterson began harvesting sugarcane and later established a sawmilling business. The sawmill included a hydropower plant which was run by the water wheel. The water wheel, which was built by Merleys Tate and Watson Glasgow, was installed in the mid to late 1800s. It was fed by Catabuli Creek, which flowed from the savanna areas and emptied into the Demerara River. The hydropower plant boosted production and reduced the cost of logging in the area. The plant was in operation for decades until the 1950s. Over time, the hydropower plant deteriorated, and only the ruins of the water wheel remain as a heritage site. Linden Town has also produced some of Guyana's most outstanding musical talents. Soca sensations like Diana Chapman, Brandon Harding, and Tamika Marshall, gospel ministers like Clement Glasgow, Renee Winter Rigby, Ronald Gonzalez, reggae and dancehall artists like Ralston Richmond of Firstborn, Original Lyrics and Shatta Youth, Mafi, and numerous others spent their formative years and began their careers in music in the mining town. As we celebrate 56 years as a republic under the theme Expressing Our Culture Through Innovation and Creativity, we shine the spotlight on the town where Mashramani began, Linden. Mashramani, with all its events and competitions, is an avenue for the expression of Guyanese creativity. Speaking with us at last week's Children's Parade, Minister of Education, the Honorable Sonia Parag, lauded the festivities as a critical part of our growing orange economy.
Yeah, show them that we born ready. Show them how we gonna do it. Show them that we born ready, ready. Boom. Show them how Guyana sweet. Show them how Guyana nice. Show them that we know but back and up, hands up there and make some noise. Show them how Guyana sweet. Show them how Guyana.
It's a very active, very exciting time for our country. We are heading into our Republic Day on the 23rd of February, which is also going to be Mashramani. But this has always been, and I think it gets bigger by the year. We have a number of schools out today, but we also have so many schools from the hinterland coming out, and they've been participating in the Calypso and the Calypso competition and drama competition that we had earlier in the week, and I was also there. Talented. We have absolutely talented youngsters, and we want to see them develop. We are creating the opportunities to make sure that they have a space in our transformation and our creative side. His Excellency is going to launch, and I've spoken so many times about the orange economy. These children from different cultures, different parts of our country, they're going to play a major part in that. So today is just a showcasing of one of our culture, but also representing and re-emphasizing our republic, our status as a republic.
Great. Well, Minister, thank you so much for chatting with us. We hope you have a fun day today.
Guyana is a nice place. Guyana is a real nice place. Don't hot up your head, don't wanna know. Welcome to the new party capital. All the all-inclusive right there. And the girls, them whining and they flying. All the artists is a vibe in it. It's only good vibes, good energy. Good vibes, good energy. Yeah, catch up with Farmer. Westminster Secondary! Nice. Show them that we know but back and up, hands up there and make some noise. Show them that we born ready. Show them that we born ready, ready. Guyana is a nice place. Guyana is a real nice place.
Now, as further proof of the importance of cultural activities in enriching educational experiences and advancing creative industries, Guyanese designer Nielsen Nurse shows us one of his pieces and shares with us how the children's MASH competitions nurtured his creativity. Now, as a designer, as a local designer, what does events like the Children's Mashramani competition mean to you?
Well, for me, the Children's Mashramani competition is one of the, for me, it's a highlight because this is where I started. I participated as a child in almost every aspect of Mashramani, and I started designing at the age of 13. So I think for me, this is my comfort zone, my play zone.
Awesome. So what do you have to say to perhaps a little one who wants to be like you when they grow up?
Just do it. That is all. Just do it. Follow your dream.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nielsen, for chatting with us, and all the best.
You're welcome.
The word Mashramani is evidence of our thriving Amerindian cultures, an aspect of Guyanese heritage that, unlike many other Caribbean countries, is still distinct and palpable. The United Nations has designated February 21 as International Mother Language Day, a day set aside to promote linguistic diversity and cultural heritage. Joining us in studio to share his knowledge of Indigenous languages is expert Ovid Williams. Joining us in studio is Indigenous language expert, Mr. Ovid Williams. Mr. Williams, welcome to EdYou Pulse.
Thank you, Kulu. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Now, Amerindians in Guyana make up 10% of our population, which is something that is very significant when you consider all of the other Caribbean territories that the indigenous population has dwindled or has become integrated into the rest of the society. So here in Guyana, how many languages are there, and where are those languages still being spoken in their geographical locations?
Good. Thank you very much for that question. Now, originally there were 13, but we have 9.
Mm.
Now, why 9 out of 13? Because the two languages, Turuma and Atorad, they were assimilated by the dominant language in region number 9, which is the Wapishan. And the two that are assimilated by the Arekuna language was the Kamarakoto and Taurepang, and that's assimilated by the Arekuna from region number 7. So in region number 1, we have the Lokono, that is popularly known as the Arawak, but they never call themselves Arawak. That was a name bestowed upon them. They call themselves the Lokono. Loko means one person. The plural of Loko is Lokono. So we have them in region number 1. Also, the Lokono is in region number 2, region number 3, 4, 5, 6, and 10. That's where they are located. In region number 6, we also have at Siparuta and Oriala, we have the Lokono also. And then in region number 7, in the Mazruni, Wenemu, Cuyuni district, we have the predominantly Akawayo, but a village called Parima, we have the Arekuna. That's the only Arekuna village in the whole of Guyana. In region number 8, in the North Pacoramo Mountains, we have the Patamuna, and that's my nation. I'm a Patamuna. I speak my language fluently. So I speak my language, Patamuna. In region number 9, we have 3 nations. We have the Makushis, which is in the North Rupununi. Also in South Pacaramas, we have the Makushis. And then in South Rupununi, we have the Wapishan. And then in the deep south, the last part of Guyana, we have the Waiwais. So we don't normally say good morning, good night, and good evening. We have our own greetings, not the European greeting. So normally we would ask, how are you, when we're meeting? So I would like to greet the audience. That is in my language. My family, I'm so glad to meet you. How are you? And I'm glad that I'll be speaking to you. In the Carib language, the Kalina, we say chuparoripo. That's the greeting. In the Lokono language, the Arawak language, we are asking, how are you? One person, you say hale kuba. When it is plenty, more than one, you say hale kuha. That's the plural you. In the Warao is baukaya. Baukaya. Patamuna is wagubena mesang. Wagubena mesang. In Akawayo is erbenai. Erbenai. In the Arekuna is Miarmang Yom Batong. Miarmang Yom Batong. In Makushi, it's Miarmang. Miarmang. In Wapishan, it's Kaimen Pugar. How are you? Kaimen Pugar. And in YY, we say, even though they say thank you, it's also a greeting. We say Kirwan He. So those are the 9 greetings in our languages. Our languages are divided into 3 categories: the Caribbean, the Arawakan, and the Warao. So 5 of the languages would be, the base language would be the Caribbean, and then the Arawakan would be the other 3. And then Warao is by itself. There's no other language that belongs to part of the Warao. So a lot of the places are named using those 3 categories. So Warao is by itself. And there's a place, a Warao village in the Mabruma subdistrict. It is called Hosororo. Now, water in the language, in Warao language, is ho. In the other languages, they call it tuna. In the Caribbean language, tuna. So all the others we call it tuna. But Warao water is ho. Now, onomatopoeia is the sound. It is the sound of an activity. So when the water is trickling in this village, in this Warao village, from the hill that has a lot of boulders, it makes a sound when it is trickling into the Aruka River. And they say, in their language, they say it makes the sound so. It's like when you're pouring water from one container to another. But in that mountain where they have this village, this is the sound that it makes as it trickles between the boulders. So. And remember, water is ho. So they named that village Hosororo. So that is how it got its name. Mm-hmm. And there's another one, another onomatopoeic name in the Akawayo language. There's a falls, and when it falls over the precipice, it makes a thunderous sound. And they describe it in the Akawayo language as drung, drung. That's like thunderous noise when it's falling. And then they named it Turungbang, one that makes a thunderous noise. The invaders or the colonizers could not pronounce it in their languages, so they have distorted Turungbang to what we now know as Eterengbang. So that's a military base. So some of these places that we have, it's very interesting how the names came about and its meaning and so on, even though they were distorted. I'd like to also explain one that is in the controversy. This is the Essequibo. We know Venezuela is claiming Essequibo, but it was the indigenous people, some 15,000 years ago, named that river. When during the Ice Age, when they passed through North America, Central America, then South America, we did not have any outboard engines to travel with, so we had to paddle in our canoes. And we did not have these metal pots, so we couldn't even hang it in a boat when we were paddling. So we had to use our earthen pots, these clay pots, and we put it on three bricks, and we cook in the boat. That was our stove. While we were paddling, while we were traveling, we cook it. We cook it on the clay pot on the fireside. In the Lokono language, which is Lokojan, they call fireside Dishiki, Dishiki. So they used to advise other people, visitors or any traveler in that area, Dishikibo. It means, well, remember, Dishiki is fireside. Walk with your fireside. That was the advice that they were giving, so that you won't forget your fireside. You have to walk with your fireside. Dishikibo, because of the length of these rivers. That has been distorted from Dishikibo to Essequibo because of the problem of the pronunciation. So it means walk with your fireside. So when next you hear about Essequibo conflict, Essequibo controversy, just remember it's Dishikibo, walk with your fireside. And it is an indigenous origin. Very quickly also, when the Dutch came and they were the first colonizers of Guyana, they met the Arawak people, the Lokono, eating kukrit. And they were fascinated that these people were eating this fruit, kukrit. I think some of you may know kukrit. Mm-hmm. And the Dutch tasted it. And when they tasted it, they said, wow, it tastes so nice. They would like to name the river that they crossed to come over to Guyana after that name. So they said, what do you call this fruit that you're eating? We would like to use it as the name for this river. So in their language, in the Arawak language, which is the Lokono language, they said, Kokorotini, Kokorotini. But the Dutch could not pronounce Kokorotini, and that is why they named it closest to Kokorotini as the Corantine. That is how Corantine River came into being. And the very next one that I would like to mention is when they came further this way now, they met another river with one set of banana plants in that area. Plenty bananas. And they asked, who planted these things? They said they don't know. When they came across here to live, they met the banana plants. And they said, what do you call the banana? They said, berry bishi. Berry bishi. Now, some of us might know it as bok banana. It's a fat and short purple colored skin. Berry bishi. The Dutch could not say berry bishi. And when the French took over from the Dutch, they too couldn't say berry bishi. And when the British took over from the French, they tried to pronounce berry bishi, but ended up saying Berbice, and that was the birth of the county of Berbice as we know it. I hope you enjoyed the explanation of these few words. But there are other words like Kaichor is really Kaik Tiwuk. Kaik is an elderly man. Tiwuk is the falls. And when Mr. Barrington Brown asked the Patamunas what is the name of the falls, they said Kaik Tiwuk. And Kaik Tiwuk sounded like Kaichor to him. And he put his own spelling and pronunciation, which is unto now Kaichor. And then we have Aisharatun in the Wapishan language. That has been distorted to Aishalton. But actually the word is Aisharatun. Aishara is a poisonous vine that we beat and soak in the water to poison fish. And Tun is an island in their language. So Aisharatun is an island of poisonous vine. And that has been distorted to Aishalton as we know it now.
Wow, lots of knowledge there, lots of insight given there. That was a really exciting social studies lesson. So, Mr. Williams, thank you so much for that. Okay. Now, as we reflect on Mother Language Day and we're celebrating Indigenous languages, now a question that some people might have is that here in Guyana, our primary language that we use is English, or some people might argue Creolese. Yes. But the question comes now, why is it so important that we preserve our indigenous languages, especially in the context of Guyana developing, we have AI now and all of this modernization. Why is it still important that we promote and preserve our indigenous languages?
The language is our identity. Regardless of your ethnic group, the language is your identity. So that's why we have to promote it, we have to revitalize it, and we have to preserve it. Because within our language, there's so much of knowledge, our medicinal plants, our history, our traditions, our practices, our beliefs, and everything else, our history. Even in our religion, the Alleluia religion, we have that, it goes in our language, our music, our mode of dress, and our cuisine, our diet, like how we, a lot of people now know about pepper pot and farine and so on. So it's all captured in the language. That is why it is important that we maintain our languages, because it is our identity and our knowledge.
Now, the theme for Mother Language Day this year is Youth Voices on Multilingual Education. So tell us, the theme for this year has to do with youths and their work, but of course, that still means that we need the elders like you who have the knowledge to share with our young people. So share with us what is some of the work that you're doing to ensure that Indigenous languages are passed on to the younger generation.
It is a challenge because of the colonization that we went through. The English, that to read the Bible for one, and now in schools, teachers, they don't speak our language, they speak in English. So that's why we're trying to reach out to the young people in order to preserve our language so that at home we speak in our languages. But because of the influence of the English, and because nowadays when you have to go and find a job, get a job, you have to apply in English, and then they're asking for 5 CXC subjects and so on. Because we can't go into an interview and talk in our language, the interviewers will not understand it. So that's why it's a challenge to maintain our languages. It is a challenge, but it is a pity that we are slowly losing it. So we go and we try to encourage our young people to talk in their language so that we can maintain our identity and our history That's why it's important that we go out and let it be the voice of the future so that we can represent ourselves, and it will help us in our self-determination. That is I hope that's the objective, and we're yet to achieve that. And we're proud that even though our officers in the government now, they're not too fluent in the languages, but we're glad to see the young people as officials in the government in Guyana. And we have our young Minister of Amerindian Affairs, a young lady. She's from the Lokono, the Arawak nation. But we have other people. We have soldiers, we have the joint services, we have joined, and we have our societal space that we have in the medical field, in the joint services, and then others doing secretarial work, and teachers, etc. So that is one positive thing, but we still really trying. It's an uphill task, letting the young people know their language. There is a program called Quality Bilingual Program. This is for the Wapishan people. This is in Region 9, especially the village of Aishalton, where the language, the literacy part of the language is being taught from nursery to secondary school. And that is a real positive. And we have reports that since that has been introduced, that the results of the exams has improved quite a lot with that initiative.
Great. So you're doing lots of work to ensure that not just our young people, but Guyanese all over understand the importance of Indigenous languages.
Yes.
Great. Well, Mr. Williams, it's been a pleasure chatting with you and hearing about all of your work and everything that's being done to ensure that Indigenous languages are being promoted and preserved. Before we go, do you have any final closing remarks that you'd like to leave with our viewers?
One of the ways to promote our language, I understand, is by miscegenation, meaning getting married to other people. So if you want to learn our language, I said the men can marry some of our girls and they can learn the language and then some of the customs and so on. So that might be a very good and interesting recommendation or suggestion that I'm making. And you too, if you want, please consider getting an Indigenous gentleman, and you might be able to greet me in my own language.
Right?
Ewaik means right.
Oh.
Ewaik.
Ewaik.
Good.
Okay.
Means
Ewaik.
yes. And thank you is Tengi.
Tengi. Kengi?
Okay. Okay, listeners, it was really nice talking to y'all, and I hope I was able to impart some of my knowledge, some of my Guyanese knowledge and Indigenous knowledge about the history and the names of our Indigenous places. Tengi Kulu. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Williams, and all the best. Here's a recap of this week's featured stories. We reflected on the town of Linden as the birthplace of Mashramani. We talked about Mashramani and its contribution to the creative industries. And finally, we discussed Indigenous languages in Guyana. That's all for this week's edition of EdYou Pulse. Happy Mashramani, have a happy and safe celebration, and do join us again next time.